Hey there, and welcome back to the Better Bookkeeper Show. I'm Lynn Talbot, and this is part 2 of our series with Ashley Lamar Morris on mastering the client onboarding journey. Last time we tackled the discovery call, how to sound confident, how to vet clients, how to hold your boundaries. We talked about how to use your listening skills to figure out what the client's pain points are and not just to sell, but to provide a solution to the problems that the client is offering. If you've not listened to part 1 about how to work through a discovery sales call with a potential client, you might want to listen to that one first. But what happens after the sales call? Maybe you're waiting for them to reply to your email. Maybe you have sent a contract and you're waiting for them to be signed. Maybe you still have information that you need from them, or they have to go somewhere else to get their approval. I know for my nonprofits, they usually have to take it to the board. So, since no two bookkeeping clients are alike, we'll talk about general ideas to help you guide through the most common onboarding processes for bookkeeping clients. So let's dive right into the next crucial step, the proposals, the contracts, onboarding. I call this the expectations meeting and keeping that professional momentum going. Because once they say yes, you need a system that supports both of you. And here's one of the key mindset shifts. This is not the end of the sales process. It's the start of your business relationship with this client. And as with any relationship, you want it to get off to the right start. So Ashley is here today to help us with that mindset shift and using her psychology background to get us back on track. Welcome back, Ashley.
Thank you, Lynn, for having me. It's great to be here.
So Ashley, last time we left off where we sold the client and we closed the deal. And now the client has come back and said, yes, I would like to go with you. I'm going to sign the contract, or you've gone back and forth about the contract. But now is the part where you are trying to figure out how to get them on board or how to settle that contract. So Ashley, what are some of the things that you do in your business at this point in the sales process?
One of the very first things I want to make sure we talk about is there is a psychological principle where unfinished tasks create mental stress for people. So we kind of ended our part 1 by sending in a recap. And I cannot emphasize how important that is. You never want to end the call with, okay, let me know what you think. Don't put the ball in their court. You want to be the one driving the car and in control of where this goes. Another useful psychological principle here is the expectation violation theory. And you're like, what is that? It's a lot of words. But essentially, it's people are more affected by their unmet expectations than they are by actual bad outcomes. So disappointment is actually really just the gap between what they expect and what's true. So if you tell someone, oh, I'm going to get started on this right away, but you don't pick it up till next month, that creates disappointment. It breaks trust. You don't want to do that. So for me, my step-by-step process is number 1, I send them the contract, and it is sent to them with my part of the contract already signed. So I say, here's the contract. This is, of course, after we send that email recap that says, so I understand you have 4 bank accounts and 2 credit cards and you run payroll and you need monthly reports, right? You already know what you're doing for the client. So put all that in your contract, sign it, send it to them and say, here's the contract. Please review it. If I've missed anything, let me know. If there's needs any revisions, let me know. Please send it back to me and then we can get paid up. So the client signs it, sends it back to me. When they send it back to me, I send them the payment link. I require a payment to get started. I highly recommend you do the same. It's a good way to protect yourself and make sure that the client is serious about what they want to do. And then I tell them as soon as I get the payment, I can get started. And then do it. Follow through with your word. Be a person who, when you say yes, it means yes, and no, it means no. After that, I request client statements. We'll kind of talk a bit about, document management and stuff in more detail later on in the podcast. But the bottom line is onboarding the client, getting the contract and signed and paid and the work started really should take no longer than 24 to 48 hours, assuming that the client, emails you back timely as well. Strike while that iron's hot and get it done right away. It just gives you a really good impression. That halo effect that we talked about in part 1 is if you can do onboarding really well, then your clients already believe that you're going to do their bookkeeping really well too.
Yes. So when you send out the proposal, there are a lot of proposal tools out there. I mean, Ignition or Honeybook. I personally have not used that. I just have a contract that I've had a lawyer review, and I use it, and I have different versions of it. Kind of depending on if they're nonprofit or if they're what I'm doing. If I'm doing a cleanup first or something like that. So, tell me a little bit about how you send your proposals and contracts.
Yeah, so I just like you, I use Google Suite for my business, so it comes with Google Docs for free. I have an outline of a contract, a template. So it says, in the template, client in all caps, and it's highlighted. And so when I sign a new contract with the client, I'll go to that template, create a copy, and infill all the pertinent information. Download it from a Google Doc to a PDF. And then you can sign it for free with Adobe. I don't pay for Adobe. You can sign a PDF with Adobe for free and send it off to the client. And
And I want to interrupt you right there because you said one thing very, very important that I have seen people send me contracts and proposal that they forget to do. She said, download the contract in a PDF because the client could go and make a few changes and not tell you either on purpose or not on purpose, but that contract needs to be in a PDF. I can't tell you the number of contracts people have sent me for different things that I'm doing, and it's just a Word document, and I could go write whatever I wanted in there. So very important. And then, of course, the electronic signature is fine. Yes, you can sign it in Adobe, or you could use DocuSign or whatever. I think Dropbox also has a way to sign documents. So I like the electronic signature. It People just don't have scanners and all that, or either they're on the go and they just want to sign it with their finger real quick on their phone. So I do like that. So we have the proposal. So we've got the proposal, we've got it sent, they've signed the contract, and we've agreed that on the scope of the work. So we don't have to worry about going back and worry about the scope of the work. And then now we're going to talk a little bit about the payment link. How do you get that first payment?
yeah, good question. So you can either put this directly in the email where you send your client contract, or you can. What I do is I ask them to sign the contract, and I say, please sign this. After this, we'll pay. So they sign it, send it back, and then I kick them back a link. And what I do is I make an invoice in QuickBooks. I have QuickBooks payments with my business. There's all kinds of payments options out there. This is just what I use. And I make the invoice in QuickBooks, but then you can, in QuickBooks, you can click that link that says, get payment link. And I will put it in line, click this link here to pay, put it in the hyperlink of the email and send it back. Another way, there's no right way to do this. There's no psychology of what's the best way to do this. This is personal preference. I just find that when you put the contract and the payment link and the request for passwords and this and that and this and that and everything in one email, people tend to only look at one thing. It's kind of like overwhelming. So I just say, okay, here's our next step. Sign the contract. Great. Here's our next step. Pay the link. Great. Here's our next step. Get me statements.
Yes, I love that. And you're right, there's many different ways to do that. In my contract, at the bottom of the contract, we have a fillable place where they could actually fill out their either ACH or their credit card for their ongoing payments. Because I'm like, this is a monthly payment of $500. I agree that Lynn Talbot on the whatever 30th of the month can charge my account for this and any other extra items not covered in the scope of the contract or something like that. And I will just do either, like you said, an invoice or a sales receipt. But that invoice actually says, I agree to allow her to charge this amount today, whatever amount we've agreed on. Maybe they're just doing a little prepayment. Maybe I'm doing a little cleanup. Maybe it's something different, but it says, and I will go ahead and charge that card. Like Ashley said, I use the Intuit payments and it just works for me. It's something I've had for 20 years and I like to use that. So we've got the payment and then we're asking the client to, we're asking to, asking for their statements and what else other things you may need to get started.
I always say that I am not responsible for the client's document management. So figuring out how you're going to share documents is really important. If a client already has something like a Dropbox or a G Drive, or maybe they put everything in Bill.com, then that's what we use. And again, I would figure that out and put that in the contract. Some clients give me access to their bank. Some clients don't want me to have access to their bank and only send me statements. Either way is fine, whatever the client feels comfortable with at that point. But I do say, please do not send the statements via email. What I will do is I will ask that folks upload whatever they need directly inside of QuickBooks. This is part of, in the discovery call, you will make sure that the client knows how to get into their QuickBooks and they are, proficient enough with technology to be able to do this. But I have them load everything into that accountant's portal. If you log into QuickBooks, on the left, it says My Accountant. If you click that, there's a link that says Shared Documents, and then everything belongs to the client. So if the client ends up finding another bookkeeper later, they have everything that they have ever sent you in one location. The CPA can see it in one location. And again, that information belongs to the client. Perfect Bookkeeping LLC does not do document management for clients. You're getting into some liability that I don't want to get into at that point. But if you choose to do that, that's great. Have a system for yourself.
Yes. So having a system is very important for collecting and receiving documents because Ashley said a few important things I want to reemphasize. I don't particularly like it when they send me, here's my 12 months of statements, and none of them have, I mean, they all come in one big email and then I have to download every one of them. And then I have to usually label them because they might just say, if they've scanned them, they don't have. So that's a good hour and a half, just downloading, labeling, and putting them where they need to go. And instead, I have my client use the QBO My Accountant section just for what Ashley said. It's like, I don't store your documents. I don't want you calling me 3 years after you've left me as a client and asked me for somebody's 1099 or something. And I make absolutely sure when that client leaves that everything is in that QBO or it's in that shared document and that shared document Google Docs, and I don't own that file. It's their file. They're just sharing it with me. I'll say, hey, and this is another program, how to close out a client. But you think about those things when you are setting up your client. How is the easiest way to remove access? And the easiest way is just for them to go in and remove you as the QuickBooks accountant, add another accountant, and you're like, there you go. Now, I really like to organize things in the QuickBooks Online accountant version. And if you've ever opened it up and it's completely blank, it doesn't allow you to create a folder right away because I like to have a folder that says bank accounts, previous tax returns, credit card accounts and whatever, loan, maybe all the different things that they have. I like to have I just don't want to throw everything in there. I want it to be organized in a folder. And so you have to actually upload one document and then a little button will magically appear in QuickBooks in that My Accountant section that says, would you like to create a folder? So it's a little frustrating at first because I like to go in and pre-do that. I say, here, I want you to put your credit card statements here. I want Bank of America statements here. And I say it very clearly with the last 4 digits of the account so that they know. And really that upload button is pretty easy. You can just, if the client is even remotely technically savvy and they've been in their QuickBooks, you can show them. Most of them have never seen it. When I go, they're like, "What? What are you talking about?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, we're storing everything here." That way, when the CPA says, "I need these documents, I need your 1098s, I need your so and so," we just simply say they're in there, and I'll do an email to the CPA at the end of the when I finish their preparing for taxes and say, "Hey, CPA, all the documents you need are here. If you can't find something or you need something further, let me know and we'll upload it." And that way they are right there together for everyone.
Lynn, it's so serendipitous you're talking about this. I literally just had this happen this week. It's July at the time we're recording this podcast. And so I've got a client, they filed an extension in April, and now the CPA is getting in there and doing taxes. And they emailed me and they said, please send me everything for 24. And I said, I see you have QuickBooks access. You can look at everything here. Let me know if you can't access it.
Yeah.
So it saves you work on the front end. I should say it saves time on the back end if you spend a little bit of that time on the front end getting it organized.
Yes. So organizing their files is great, and I don't want to be responsible for somebody's files 3 years later. And if they're in there in the QuickBooks, if they're in the QBO accountant section, it is there, for forever and for everyone to see. Now, one of the interesting things is in that QBO accountant section, there's also one that says requests. So you can use that. I have used it in the past. A lot of my employees have used it in the past. I don't know how effective it is. Have you ever used this one, Ashley?
One thing you have to be careful with of this is if the so Intuit is really bad about sending tons of solicitations that are irrelevant to the client. So when you do that request, it comes in from a no reply at intuit.com or whatever email address. And so if the client is kind of tuned out their QuickBooks notices, it'll say like your accountant has requested something, but I don't know. There's a lot of scams with Intuit too. Like, I'll get these emails that say your subscription is about to expire. That's not a
Yes.
thing in QuickBooks, by the way, y'all. Listening, free tip of the day. QuickBooks does not expire. It's not like that. If you have an issue with your credit card, you'll go into your settings and put a different credit card in. But yeah, your subscription doesn't expire, and so anyway, Intuit kind of overdoes it with these emails. So you can request it. It comes from QuickBooks. I just personally prefer to be the one to request the information. My clients know Ashley Lamar Morris. They don't know, QuickBooks at my accountant. So make it personalized. Yes, it takes a little extra time, but it is worth it in my opinion.
Yes, and I kind of feel the same. A lot of times those things will just sort of end up in spam, or they come and I would probably do the same. I just kind of skip right over it and say, "Who's requesting that?" Like, I'm not going to send my bank account or my tax return to this person. I don't even know who it is, and they'll skip right over it. So, but that is a way to use. There is a button there to use if you want to. I don't find it particularly helpful either. But once they learn how to upload it, they just click the button, upload. It's super easy, and you can use the move button to move things around.
Yeah, and here's the thing. You want to train your clients to be comfortable with logging into their QuickBooks. Maybe at first they come to you and they feel a lot of shame, and generally avoidant behaviors like neglecting to log into your QuickBooks come from feelings of shame. And so you want to work them out of those negative feelings and say, well, once you in there, I want you to log in and look at the bank feeds and see they're all added and the green check marks, and that makes you happy. And then run your profit and loss and everything's in there. Nothing's uncategorized, and that makes you happy. And ultimately your goal is getting them comfortable with logging in. So yes, train them to log in and upload. It'll help you.
Yes, and then it gets them more comfortable with it because a lot of clients are scared of their QuickBooks. They're scared to go in there because they're like, "I'm scared I'm going to make a mistake," or they've gotten told in the past that maybe they did something wrong, and so they just have a real hands-off approach. Sometimes that's the best because the client maybe doesn't need to be in there kind of messing around, but you want them to feel comfortable running reports and feel that they're part of the team, that they understand where their expenses are being categorized at, and they understand why they do or don't have a profit and what those numbers mean. So
Yeah.
you're right, getting in there is important.
Yeah, and it goes back to that, principle of reciprocity. Your part is to upload the statement. My part is to grab the statement and reconcile it and send you reports. So each one of us is doing a job.
Yes. So, with our step by step process of onboarding, we've talked about sending the contract, we've got it signed, they've sent the contract back, we've got the payment, we've requested the client statements, we've showed them how to use the portal, we're getting the information that we need. Now, what else do we need to do? I will sometimes schedule a sort of a kickoff call or an expectations call if I can't seem to get all the information or they've given me this information and there's something not right. Like, I'm not quite understanding, or they've since asked me to do something else, or I've since discovered something different. I will more than likely ask them to do a little kickoff call. Hey, let's do a quick call. I see you've loaded all of these things, but I'm seeing some documents here that aren't in QuickBooks, or I'm seeing some things. So I will often schedule a call, or sometimes I will say, look, I think I have what I need. Let me get started, and I'm going to reach out to you when I have questions. And I'll get started and then find a few things, or I'll find some consistent payment that I can't locate. And then I will reach out. Either if it's quick, I'll do an email, or if I have a lot, I will get all my ducks in a row, do what I can to get the file, where it needs to be, and then ask them if I can have a call with them to go through it. Because if you have 10 questions, you do not need to be sending 10 emails. What's this? What's this? What's this? What's this? Well, why did you do that? Well, why is this here? Well, they did that last year. Did you file taxes on that? Like, that's not right, because that's a way that because we want to get things right as a QuickBooks specialist. We want to get it right, and we want to sometimes do that, and we forget about all the psychology behind how that sounds on the other end, right?
Yeah, again, we're avoiding that usage as much as possible. You didn't file your taxes. You're behind in your sales tax. You didn't upload the checking statement I told you to. And we're trying to reframe our language in a we statement. Hey, if you could please upload this, then we can get you reconciled and we can get on to talking about reports. But I want to go back to what you asked initially, like how do I do a kickoff call? I like that you called it that. I've never thought to call it that before, but definitely in the beginning when you're working with the client, you're meeting with them and asking them more than you will 6 months from now when you get on a good groove. And I always say that up front. Like, I'm probably going to ask you tons of questions in the beginning. These will level off as I learn you and learn what you're doing. And so you don't, accidentally overwhelm your brand new client with, oh, there's so much now we got to get 3 years, done all at once. So definitely say that up front with them. I'm going to be asking you tons of questions in the beginning. This will level off as we're working together. I always like to say that. I say at first, at least weekly emails until you get them caught up. And after that, I try really hard not to overwhelm them with too many meetings, but I do work them into my, kind of monthly cadence. So depending on when they come in the month, that can be harder than other times to do this. Like if you're onboarding a client at the end of the month, I'll just tell them, I have lots of time to meet this week, but next month it'll be the first of the month and I won't be able to meet again until after the 10th. So can we meet this week? If not, let's connect after the 12th, just again, setting expectation.
So yeah, that kickoff call can happen, right away, or it can happen after you've had time to get in there and do the things you need to do, because we're all still discovering what's going on. And when you get in there and you realize the client's been commingling, you really have to figure out the pattern before you can go back and ask them questions. You'll say things like, I noticed this $1,800 payment to blah blah mortgage. I don't see that you have a building in your company, or do you have a building? I've been, oh yeah, I own the building. Okay, there's not a building on the balance sheet. Can I get the purchase agreement? Blah blah blah. Get that HUD statement, and those are the things that you'll call. But I don't want to do that in an email because it sounds accusatory. I want to say I've got a few questions, and let's talk about how to get that how to get that started. And it can sometimes be a very quick call. If the person is really with it, they're like, oh yes, yes, this, and that's fine. Other times they would get like frustrated, like, well, nobody's ever asked me that before. And I've always written off all my pet supplies and dog food. And then they'll get a little defensive. And you're just like, well, I just want to learn a little bit more about how you did that in the past, because I see you did it, but I'm just not familiar with how we can do that going forward. Or like, because you in your head, you're like, I don't think you can write this off, or this shopping trip, to Belts or something. It's like, I don't think you can write that off. Let's talk about that. But I have had clients get super defensive that my previous bookkeeper let me do it, my previous CPA let me do it. And so you just have to kind of do that in a conversation instead of an email. Again, like Ashley said, it doesn't sound you did this, accusatory. Um, so we've gotten to the meeting. We're kind of working through. That's their onboarding. We've sort of finished that onboarding process. But this is where your mindset shift comes from being a helper. I'm helping to get this, because you want to be helpers, right? As QuickBooks specialists and bookkeepers. I mean, we're all helpers, but you need to turn that into being a leader. So now you were helping them get everything together. Now you're leading it. And the thing you want them to understand, the position you want them to understand is, I'm leading the team now. I've got you. And you want them to feel that confidence from you. If you just keep working as a helper, I'm just helping you, I'm helping you, that can lead into a disaster and can lead into a relationship that's not really very healthy. Tell us a little bit about how you take that mind shift from being a helper to being a leader.
Yeah, great question. So this is a psychological principle called social referencing, which is when people feel uncertain about any next action, they tend to look to others for guidance, and they're going to look to somebody that they feel like is a leader. So this is where you really rid yourself of your imposter syndrome, and you're the one in the books, you're the one looking at it. You want to convey, as Lynn said, that confidence, and you want to convey safety, and the ability for them to follow you. And what does that look like in bookkeeping? Well, you might log in and say, hey, I noticed that you are charging, or again, working out of that you language. I noticed on the profit and loss, there was $100 in shipping income, but then $95 in shipping expenses. Are you happy with that margin? Should we maybe talk about raising your shipping, invoicing cost and that sort of thing? So this is where your advice as a bookkeeper and your expertise really comes into play.
Yeah, so you're right. Being able to lead them with confidence, and you'll probably find that comfort zone for you when you move from just figuring out what the heck they're doing, getting it reconciled, and then all of this. You've talked to the CPA maybe, and maybe you've even peeked at their past tax return to make sure that you have a good understanding for what they are. All of a sudden, you'll feel yourself turn to that leadership area where you're like, okay, I'm ready to lead this team. I'm ready to take this on. And it's like you're inviting them to say, it's okay, I've got this. You can sleep at night, you can do your thing, I've got this. And I've had clients call me after that first month and say, Lynn, like, you're the only person that talked to me in a way that I could understand, or you're the only person I talked to, and now I sleep at night because you explained it in a way that I was like, oh, well, I'm really not a bad business owner. I just didn't understand why this was happening or this was happening. And you took the time to explain it to me. And when you hear those comments from your clients, that's when you know you've moved from just being a helper to being a leader. And some of the things that you don't want to say because this is not leading, it's like, well, I'm still trying to figure this out, or I'm going to do this. Is that okay with you? Can I do that? Can I do this? Well, the client doesn't know. If you're a leader, you're saying, this is the way I'd like to book this going forward. This is the way other clients have. I have done this for other clients and they've been happy with it. Or I've worked with the CPA and they really like it to be presented this way. I'm going to pop an email to them and see if we can get that straightened out. I'm going to take care of it for you because I'm the leader that I am. I'm not going to just let you continue a bookkeeping, I want to say, flaw or era just because I've taken over the books and you don't like it. you might, you might think one way because you've heard a client say something. And like Ashley said, when they start to have a little bit of doubt, they reach out to other people and they're looking for leaders. And by saying these things that we've talked about, it will help you with your mindset as well. It'll help the client's mindset, but it also just turns something, inside of you.
I cannot emphasize enough how important language is in how you talk to your clients, especially in the beginning while they're just getting to know you. You want to frame your language in a way that, like Lynn said, makes you sound confident. Try to stay away from things like try, what I just said, or maybe, or hopefully, or by chance. No, you want to take all that out. Be the guide. This is the action plan. This is what we're doing.
Right. And, it's a partnership. You talk a little bit about how this is a mutual relationship and that they should be as responsive to you and respectful to you as you are to them. And so people feel most satisfied in relationships when they perceive that the input and the output are balanced. And we talked a little bit about that in our previous podcast about the balance. So what else, anything else we can add to this, Ashley, wrapping up our steps for onboarding?
Yeah, so as you said, this is the theory of equity, where people are happiest in perceived input and output relationship balanced. And what that does is it prevents you from being over accommodating, being in that, oh, I'm just your servant. I'll do anything you want me to, that people pleasing. Yes, we're in a service-based business. That does not mean servant business. Very important differentiator there. You set the tone for how you want to be treated. So be professional and kind and direct in the way that you talk to clients, and you'll probably get that back. Reinforce your role as the business owner. You're not their assistant, you're not their VA. If they have that, that's great. I'm not devaluing those positions, but that's just not what we're doing. And you can even say, I value responsiveness. I try to answer all my emails in 24 hours. I like that in return. And as we kind of said before, ghosting clients who you email and then they're all about you and then you don't hear from them for 2 months. Well, why did they do that? Well, ghosting behavior is really just avoidance. It's usually not them being rude or disrespectful, but it's because they're uncomfortable. They're already behind in their bookkeeping. They're late on their taxes. They need some help. They know that it triggers feelings of shame or fear of being judged, or just maybe they're neurodivergent and they feel overwhelmed and avoid it, avoid things that way. You already know that they're going to you for help. Another thing I like to emphasize in my business is it's okay for the client to need more time if they're communicating that with me. Life happens. What's going on in life is more important than what's going on with me and my little need to know the uncategorized transaction. They have to take care of their kids and parents first and foremost. And so I build that directly into the culture of my firm. I also, I myself take vacations. I don't email clients on holidays. I don't email on weekends. Schedule those emails for when you're able, if you are working late or on a weekend. schedule them during your working hours. Maintain those boundaries, and you will be much, much happier and avoid burnout.
Yes. Yes. And I like what you said about the not feeling like you have to have everything right away, because I do fall into that trap. I know a lot of bookkeepers do. We've got deadlines, we've got dates. It's the 15th of the month and I don't have the statement. I can get super frustrated because I'm like, I've asked 3 times for it, and now I have to go do something else, and when they send it to me, it might not be convenient for me, but remembering that that is just avoidance behavior and probably isn't personal, but sometimes for us, it's hard not to take it personally, but just to say, "Hey, do you need some more time?" That's great, because I've committed as a bookkeeper to getting your books, your month end completed by a certain date, and when I don't get the information I need, I feel like I'm being taken advantage of. It can feel that way, right? But that's the part that we need to build up a culture of, hey, if you need some more time, you just need to communicate. And then put that in an email. Yeah, just communicate with me. I'm happy. Obviously, I won't be able to get your month end done or whatever. But if you're up against a deadline like sales tax or payroll, you have to get the information and just say, your sales tax will be late if I don't get it by tomorrow. I don't have the data I need, or I can't get logged in, or something's happened. And so that's when you need to push up the stress. But I often tell people there's not a lot of bookkeeping emergencies. So just don't let them put you off for too long. And then you end up with 3 months of work to do at a stressful time, maybe right at Christmas or sometime like that. So, well, I think that is a wrap today for talking about how to wrap your mind around how to onboard your clients. So, the mindset shift we talked about was moving from being a helper to being a leader. And you'll know when that happens in that process. Ashley, thank you for joining me today and sharing all your insights on the psychology of helping your clients onboard properly and with a good structure. So, if you need this kind of support on a regular basis, come join us in the Bookkeepers Training Circle. Ashley and I have monthly roundtable discussions with all of the members where we dive into some of the psychology about maybe what's going on in your bookkeeping world. I'm Lynn Talbot, and I'll see you in the next episode.